And what's up, everybody? I'm back with another video, and today is a story time video that I've been wanting to talk about for a little bit. It happened a few weeks ago, and it's a work experience video, but I didn't necessarily want to just save it for the Work Stories podcast, though we will talk about it there. Just haven't yet because that's on hiatus. We'll get back to that eventually, but it was too crazy of an experience to tell just on there, just because I don't think I've ever seen such a high level slash like fast paced amount of just lies, unpreparedness, and just overall batshit craziness. A few weeks later, to almost a month since we did this, I still can't believe that it actually happened. I was there, I experienced it, but I still can't believe that it actually happened. But it did, and we're going to talk about it today. So, this is my experience of working at the Pocono Raceway for the Great American Better 400 weekend, or I don't remember the name of the race, but that was a few weeks ago for NASCAR. I got to work in a NASCAR race, and I did not work for Pocono Raceway directly. I want to make that clear. I worked for an external company, and that external company I am not going to name, nor am I going to name anybody that I worked with or anybody that works at this company that I might have talked to beforehand or whatever. That is out for privacy's sake and everything like that, and also so you don't go fucking harassing anybody there. Do not go harass anybody at the Pocono Raceway. As I did not work with anybody that directly is connected with the racetrack. Do not go, if you somehow figure out what company that I'm talking about, do not go harass them either. Nor do you harass any of the people that I worked with. Gotcha? Okay, make that clear. But I'm not going to name the company, but I think it is pretty important, as set up a little bit of a pretense here as to why me, somebody from Michigan, was out working in eastern Pennsylvania for a NASCAR race for $12 an hour, nonetheless. Yeah. You'll remember the $12 an hour when we get into what the fuck happened. First off, a little bit of pretense. How did I even get out there? How did I even get this thing to this position? Well, this company that I worked with not only works with Pocono Raceway, but they work at multiple events across the country, doing all sorts of event operation stuff, mainly ticketing, which is what I was doing that for. I worked in their ticket. It's called an internship, but it was like 3 days I was out there. The traveling part included, it took about 5 days, but 3 days I actually worked. So is it really an internship? I guess you could call it that, but it was a very small internship. But most times when you're working with this company, if you work events with this company, you are probably only working about maybe a week max per event. So not a very long time, very short, but they also, again, travel around the country, which then broadens their horizons to get what they target is a lot of college kids or fresh out of college kids in my case, who are looking to get more experience in the entertainment and athletics industry and doing stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty important to note that, because they do pretty big events as well. They do the Final Four, they do the Kentucky Derby, and what I was there for, NASCAR races. Now, they don't just do Pocono, they do other races too, but Pocono was the one that I was there for. And actually, the reason why I had even gotten this position in the first place is when I had talked to somebody a few weeks prior, well, about a month prior, actually, a little over a month prior, regarding the Kentucky Derby, and I actually got offered to work the Kentucky Derby, but I didn't take it because they weren't going to provide any housing. This was a big problem because the hotels the week of the Kentucky Derby in Louisville were stupidly expensive. Even out like as much as an hour and a half outside the city, they were still running at least $2,000 to stay for the 8-day duration that I would have been working. Well, maybe not $2,000, but well over $1,000, $1,500, and like my total take-home pay before taxes would have been about as much as one night, the night before the race, would have cost to stay in a hotel. And that's not even including gas, food, entertainment that I've been doing to make it a little bit of a trip, all that sort of stuff. So they definitely do try to target people that live near these places, but for me, it was an option where it's like, oh shit, I've never been to Pocono, never been to this track. I'm a huge NASCAR fan, and I can get some awesome work experience. Well, why don't I apply? And so I did, and then after I applied, I emailed the person that I talked to the first time regarding the Kentucky Derby, just asking, hey, I saw this position, I applied, is there a chance I can maybe get to work it? Can I get some more information? And she literally just straight up there put me on the schedule, didn't even do an interview, nothing like that, which should have been the first red flag. Now, the first time when I did do when I talked to her about the Kentucky Derby, I did do an interview. So maybe they didn't necessarily need a second interview. It would make sense. But that should have been the first red flag, and it wasn't. But it would have been a pretty small red flag nonetheless. But she offered it to me, and I got put on the schedule. And this time they were going to cover housing, but I didn't know that because I had asked Aunt Pomeroy if she wanted to come with me just to A, have somebody to travel with, B, have somebody help cover the hotel costs and all that sort of stuff. She said yes, and therefore I couldn't stay in the housing because Anne wouldn't have been able to stay with me. But we found a cheap hotel. It was definitely money-wise worth it. I think across like food, extra entertainment, gas, housing, I think I still brought home a little bit of money, or at least broke even. Versus the Kentucky Derby, I'd be losing over $1,000. So there you go. Helped that it was also only 3 days instead of 8. So there's that too. But how did so now get that pretense? That's how I got involved. Now after I got officially signed up for it, this was like early May is when I had this whole conversation with her regarding this, and then nothing more came after that for a while. And I booked the hotel that we were going to stay in, figured out all the extra fun shit that we were going to do, figured out our plan of attack, all that sort of stuff. And then just a few weeks went by, and the race is getting pretty close by. I have it on my calendar. I have to take time off of work to go do this. I had to take 3 days off of my main job to go do this because I needed Thursday to travel out there, Friday to work, Saturday to work, Sunday to work, Monday to travel back home. So I'm thinking at this point, as we get close, we got literally to less than a week before the race, and I didn't have any information outside of the initial conversation that I had, which she only described the hours that I'd be working and the attire. I didn't know anything else about what I would need to do, what I would need to bring, what I need to fill out. I didn't know any of that going in. So I emailed her again later the week before the race. So we're about a week out at this point, and she says you should receive something early next week. Monday goes by, nothing. Tuesday goes by, nothing. And I'm like, this is fucked up. Am I not even doing this? We had everything booked by this point. There was nothing we were going to do. We're going to Pocono. I just need to know if I'm going to fucking work this or if I need to buy my own race ticket. And we're going to fucking do it that way. Right? But after working a good 12-hour day, Tuesday, I get home, I get on my laptop, and I check my email to see what the hell happened, just to see maybe if I didn't get the notification. Yeah, there was a staff email sent out at 4:30 on Tuesday, less than 2 days before I was supposed to leave, less than 3 days before the first shift. Not only that, the email went to my junk email. it got flagged as junk and sent to my junk email. That should have been a red flag there as well. But you know what? I ignored it. I was pretty pissed, but at least there was some communication, and it gave everything, at least that I thought, what I was going to need. It gave the dress code, it gave the hours, it gave where to report, it gave what we were going to be doing, it gave training module information, stuff to fill out for our payment information, all that sort of stuff. So I was very relieved, and we got all that done, and now it was time to leave. And so we left Thursday morning, and we're driving out to Pennsylvania. And again, I'm from Michigan. This is Pocono's on the very east side of Pennsylvania. So it is a good 7-hour drive, 8-hour drive. And we made a few stops along the way. But at this point, it was about 2:15 in the afternoon. And we are crossing over the border from Ohio to Pennsylvania. So no turning back at this point. We are doing this. There's no turning back. I can't run home to grab anything more. Well, I get an email from the guy who has been helping put this on the entire time. And he's like, reminder, bring your laptop. What? So I frantically go back into my email. And I check that thing 3 times over. Not once was there a place where it said we need to bring our own laptops. What? I have worked several different ticketing jobs now. This one was my 5th. Never before have I been asked to bring my own laptop. In almost 4 years of doing this, never have I been asked to use my own laptop. Never. And if at least you're going to make us bring our own laptops, would it kill you to put it in the fucking main email you sent less than 2 days prior? So I get a little pissed off because, again, we're just crossing into Pennsylvania. I can't run home and get it. Right? I'm screwed. The only device that I have is my cell phone. I didn't bring anything else because I didn't think I would need anything else. Because, you would think a company that does huge events like the fucking Final Four and the Kentucky Derby would have their own company-provided laptops for their employees to use. Because A, it's incredibly stupid to have people bring their own laptops for so many different security risks. Security risks for the employer, security risks for the customer, security risks just for the fact that it could be damaged, it could burn, it could overheat, it could get spilled on, stuff could get dropped on it, rained on. You don't know what the fuck's going to happen, especially in an outdoor event like this. It could get stolen. I don't understand. I don't understand. But in the back of my mind, red flags should have been popping off everywhere, and they were starting to at this point. But I'm still thinking, in the back of my mind, they have to have some backup laptops, right? They have to. I was still thinking that they had to have something for us to use, right? So I'm not too worried about it. There's nothing that I can do at this point. I didn't do anything wrong. I brought what I was told to brought in the first staff email Tuesday afternoon. I was never told anything about a laptop previously. So I'm not too worried about it. The rest of the day goes on fine. We do some fun traveling. We went to see a baseball game. We did a whole vlog for the whole weekend. You can go check that out if you want to see what we did. But fast forward to day one. Day one. Finally, the first work day of the 3. And the hours for this day were supposed to be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. They were originally 9 to 5, and then they changed to 10 to 6. But they had at least communicated to us about that change, so it wasn't a huge deal. So we roll up to the track. It's a little before 9:45, right? We got there a little early just so that we could get our bearings underneath us. Again, we'd never been to this place before. We wanted to know where we needed to go. We wanted to make sure we got ample parking. I want to make sure I got there on time just in case of traffic. So we got there pretty early. And we were told to report to the main offices. Now, the main offices of Pocono are over by the short chute, turn 2 area. So not by the main grandstands. But we go back there to the main offices and parks the car, and then I go inside. But I was told to check in the main offices, so I go in the building. And there was some pretty cool stuff to look at in those main offices. There were some cool helmets, die-casts, signed flags, pictures, other cool memorabilia that was in those offices. And there was even some pretty high-profile people just in those offices. I walked in with somebody from Rick Ware Racing, just walked in with him just like it was nothing. It was pretty cool, honestly. And eventually I find out where my group of people are. Not inside the main offices, no, out in the parking lot. Cool. But anyway, find out, get checked in, I get my shirt, and I get a credential with a ticket for the entire weekend so that I could get where I needed to go, which made me very excited because I was like, oh, cool, we can actually go in and watch the races afterwards, right? And this actually to experience the track alongside actually working. So I'm like, fuck, this is going to be awesome. We get checked in, everything like that, and then at this point it's a little after 9:45, and then my boss, all of us weren't there yet. My boss goes back into the main offices, and he is gone for almost an hour. I don't know what the fuck he was doing in there. Maybe he was taking a shit. Maybe he got lost. Who the fuck knows? It was a tiny fucking building. Maybe a little bit bigger than this basement, if you take away the parking lot and everything like that. Not very big at all. And so I'm like, where the hell did he go? Well, while he was gone doing whatever, God knows what, I decided to get to know my other coworkers. And what I quickly realized, that all the coworkers were really nice, by the way. Nothing against them. They were all around my age, obviously, college or fresh out of college, everything like that. But what I quickly realized was I was a little bit out of my element as in terms of how far I had to come to get here. Pretty much everybody there were from New Jersey. Outside, there were 9 of us in total, including my boss. 6 of those 9 people were from New Jersey, I think. Then there was me. Then there was my boss, who was from somewhere where the company is more closely located. And then, which made sense. And then there was one other girl who lived 15 minutes from the track. Damn, no brainer for her to work this, huh? But everybody else was from New Jersey. Cool. I'm from Michigan. Hi. I had to drive a day to get here. Cool. I was really expecting to see more people that were from other parts of the country. But I guess I couldn't be surprised. I mean, most of these people are from New Jersey were only coming from 2 hours away. So, of course, that means everybody else had their fucking laptop. We'll get to that in a second. But eventually my boss comes back outside after we've been standing baking in the sun for God knows how long. And Then I was like, well, go grab your laptops. And everybody has to grab their fucking laptop because, again, they came from 2 hours away. So they hadn't even left by the time he sent out that email. It's like, oh, everybody else grab their fucking laptop. And then we go back inside the main offices. I don't know why we didn't just all meet in there, but whatever. We go back through the main offices to the back corridor area and we go into the little conference room. This was a really cool room because there was a lot of cool more signed flags from old races. There was a signed Jimmy Johnson picture. I mean, there was a lot of cool stuff in this room. And we passed by where they had some old Kyle Busch merchandise boxes, which, given that Kyle Busch died a few weeks prior to this, was kind of crazy. That stuff was just back there. And then we sat in probably some of the most comfy office chairs that I've ever sat in my life. I just wanted to point that out. But then he tries to give us an overview of the training software, or of the software that we're going to be using, because the main thing that we were doing for the weekend was taking deposits for renewals of next year's races tickets from fans that were over there. Fine, whatever. Don't know why the main Pocono staff don't do this, but you know what? Cool, whatever. And I was actually pretty excited to use the system because it's a system that I use every day in my main job. So I knew this system like the back of my hand. One problem though, I didn't have a laptop. And I'm like, still thinking that they have company provided laptops, and I thought that's what he was going, because we walked in this room, he doesn't come with us. So I'm thinking, okay, he's probably grabbing some backup laptops, right? No. I don't know where he went. I don't know what he grabbed. He didn't grab shit. He comes back in with his laptop and his laptop only, and the reality is starting to set in that I might be fucked. Only 2 people did not bring laptops. Me and one other kid. And he had like this iPad with a pen on it, but that didn't work for the system, so he was also screwed. But anyways, he goes through and he's like, well, where's your laptop? I'm like, well, I didn't bring it. I didn't know we would need it because there was nothing sent in the email until less than 24 hours ago. So he's like, okay. And then I did not like this guy, by the way. He seemed like he didn't know what he was doing at all. Not really his fault. There was a lot of things that you could tell were completely out of his control. And you can tell that I fully believe, and I don't know his full story. I barely ever talked to this guy, but you could tell that there were things you could tell that he really wasn't doing, what am I trying to say here? Sorry, I got sidetracked. You could tell that he also didn't really know what was going on. And I don't think it was his fault, 100%. I think partially it was his fault, partially it wasn't. I think there's a good chance, and I fully believe, based on his body language, based on everything that happened, that he was thrown into this position at the very last minute. And he didn't really know or understand what was going on. So I don't blame him 100%. But when he logged into the system and it asked for a security key, because when you log into the system for the first time on a new device, it asks for a security key. Happens at my main job, happened here too. He didn't know what the security key was. So he had to go find somebody that knew the security key. Brother, this is your system. You are the one that's supposed to know the security key. How do you expect anybody else to not to know what the security key is? What the fuck? So he's gone again for like another 15-20 minutes. And we're just sitting there shitless because we can't do shit because we can't log into the system. And I start like asking around and like, were you guys told to bring your laptop? Because I was not. I'm like trying to like justify my shit here. Because I'm like, fuck, I'm like about to fucking walk out. Like, if he's got nothing for me to do, then I'm gonna fucking walk out. I'm gonna take this ticket that he gave me and just enjoy the weekend as a fan from here on out. And the kid next to me, the other kid that didn't bring a laptop, said, "Oh yeah, and he's like, yeah, in my interview, I asked if I needed to bring my laptop, and guess what he said? He said no. He said no. He said no. He said no. What the fuck? What the fuck?" Now again, I didn't interview. I did not do an interview for this position. But this kid did, and he asked if he needed to bring his laptop. He said no. He said no. What do you mean? He said no. What the fuck? Oh my god. So, there's going to be a series of lies that I'm going to highlight in this video. And this is going to be a long video, if you couldn't already tell. We're still on day 1, and we're like 20-something minutes into the video. But this was the first of these lies. Because how fucking difficult is it to put in the fucking email that you need to bring your own laptop? Then this whole crisis could have been averted. So, like, I'm just honestly speechless at this point. But it gets better. He comes back with the access key. Everybody else gets into the system, and he starts training us on how to do the system. Oh yeah, we have to hook up credit card readers to the laptops so we can take deposits in case they don't have a card on file already. Again, huge security risk. Hooking credit card readers up to people's personal laptops. What the fuck? But then anyway, here's the funny part. You have 7 people that brought their laptops, including my manager. Only 3 of them, one of them being my manager's, had a USB hookup. I can't tell you throughout this whole process while he was showing us the system, which, by the way, in the training module, there was already a video on how to use the system, so I don't know why we were rehashing it here. But I didn't care. We were in an air-conditioned room, so I didn't really give a fuck. But I so badly wanted to school this guy on how to use the system because I knew all the mistakes he was making. But I couldn't because I didn't have a laptop with me. And that really frustrated me. So I had to really hold back. It was not good. Anyway, we go through the training, yada, yada, yada. Go through that. Then we get our assignments of where we're going to be. Everybody else gets to go over to the main grandstands and work in the main offices or whatever over there. Helping renewals and shit like that. He's just like... He was also like completely baffled that we didn't bring laptops with USB hookup. Again, this is something that you could have put in the fucking email. Put the fucking email. This is so fucking difficult. I was getting really pissed off at this point, but we are only getting started. We get our assignments of where we're going to be for the day. Guess what? Everybody else got to go to the track, like I said. Me, though, he's like, you're going to be in this tent, the guest services tent. Points out the window to a little white tent right next to the main offices. Keep in mind the location of the main offices. Yeah. I almost walked out right then and there, but I gave him a chance. I was like, okay, this was only the ARCA race. I didn't really care to see the ARCA race anyways. We'll deal with it. You know? We'll deal with it. Maybe I'll be able to see some of the race. Maybe it won't be that bad. It was that bad. So Anne finally leaves. Anne was sitting in the car, by the way, this entire time, waiting to see where I would need to move, because I assumed we would have to then drive around to the main parking lot to go into the track. And Ann did too. No. So Ann abandons the car and leaves the car in this lot and then walks away. And then I go over to this tent. And there was a guest services tent, but there was also some will call in there. There were some passes, and there was like an information guide so we could help people find out where they needed to go. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll have some walk-up, some people that'll come in and, it'll go by fast and I'll actually have things to do. I wasn't learning shit, the whole point of an internship, but at least I would have something to pass the time, right? Well, the problem was that there was a NASCAR hauler right next to me. And there was all the credentials, ticket pickup, pass pickup, everything. That trailer had a line out the barricades almost the entire day. My tent, nobody. Because there was nothing for me to fucking do, because there was nothing in there. This tent was fucking miserable too. I put a little bit of it in the vlog because I was just super baffled on this tent system. It was covered by flap on all four sides, so there could be no inflow. It was humid as shit in there because it had rained prior to them setting up the tent, so there was still a little bit of water on the ground that couldn't escape because there was no fucking wind flow. It was hotter than hell in there. At least we did have the comfy office chairs, though. But there was nothing for me to fucking do. The only benefit was that I had a basket of chips all to myself. Yummy chips. And a cooler with some ice and some bottled water, which was very nice because it was very hot. But I sat in there the rest of the day, and by the way, because of the long stretch of time, my 10 to 6 shift turned into like an 11:30 to 6, but I was on the clock, I was getting paid, but I was only having to sit in that tent for a little over 6 hours, or about 6 hours, which better than 8 hours, I guess, but still. I mean, it was fucking miserable. I was hotter than hell. There's nothing for me to do. Like, I browsed the information guide. They didn't even bother to take Kyle Busch's name off of the driver list. He died 3 weeks prior, and they didn't bother to take his name off the fucking list. Are we being fucking for real right now? I don't fucking understand it. I really don't understand it. But, anyway. And I was also just really, really pissed off because I felt at this point I was being punished / exiled for not bringing a laptop. Even though it was not said you needed to bring your own fucking laptop. I couldn't go to the fan area. I couldn't see any of the track because there was a hill up till you got to the catch fence. No fans over there that were coming to my tent, at least. There were some fans coming through, but not a ton. I was like, what the fuck? As a person who, A, knows this system better than everybody else I'm working with combined, B, a massive NASCAR fan, this was hell. This was torture. This felt intentional. I wasn't learning anything. I was being paid less than if I was at my actual job, and I had to pay to get the fuck out here for fucking this. I was literally texting my dad and was texting some of my coworkers back home. I'm like, this is fucking miserable. This has been an absolute disaster planning, and it was absolute disaster. And it all could have been avoided with a fucking email. Oh my god. I did eventually have some people walk up, which was nice, and I was able to help them out. Because at this point, I didn't really care. Like, if people walked in and wanted an infield parking pass, I just gave it to them. I didn't care if they fucking paid for it. I'm here to make the customer's experience as best as possible. I'm not making any money off of it. I'm not making fucking commission. I don't give a fuck. Being paid $12 an hour to rot away in this fucking tent all day. I was gonna give you want a fucking parking pass? It's yours. Have it. I don't care. Could have taken one for myself if I wanted to. solve that problem. At least I could go outside, because I ended up like many times just walking outside the tent, because even though it was sunny out, it was at least cooler because there was actual breeze that I could feel outside the tent. So I would periodically just stand outside the tent, catch a nice breeze. It was actually pretty nice out there, and customers could see that somebody was working in that fucking tent if they had questions. But then also when the ARCA race started, I could look at the scoreboard and watch the ARCA race, and that was pretty fun. And that was day one. A long day one. This is pretty tense, and then day one. But we ended up getting out of there about 5:30, which was earlier than we expected, and that was fine. And then we went home. We went back to the hotel and had more fun. It was not a great first day, but I made it clear to my boss, both before I went into that tent and when I saw him again at the end of the day. I know the system like the back of my hand. I want to learn stuff. I want experience. Please get me into that main area. And he said he would. So I'm thinking, okay, I still have hope. I'm not going to walk out. This weekend can still be salvaged if I can get in and actually learn some stuff, and then also maybe see some of the Xfinity race and some of the Cup race. I'm thinking, okay, there's still hope. It was just the ARCA race. We're fine, right? So that was day one. Now I move on to day two. The hours for the last 2 days were both 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., which was great, because while the ARCA race, my hours were scheduled 10 to 6, the ARCA race started at 3. It was only like a 60-lap race. So I didn't get there was no chance that I was going to see that race anyways. So that's another reason why I wasn't too mad about being out in turn 2 for that. But the Xfinity race was scheduled to start at 4, and the Cup race was scheduled to start at 3. So I was on at 5 both days. I'm like, okay, there's a good chance I could go in and actually see some of this race. Hence why I was a little bit more desperate. And good news, I was not over in that tent any longer that weekend. Thank God. I would be over on the main front stretch now. Yay! But where I was the last 2 days was another tent, but this time, proper setup so that we could get A, shade, and B, actually have some airflow. But we were on the front stretch, and it was really cool because I could walk up. I got to look at the track in the morning, took some nice pictures. And I was actually in the fan area, and I was learning something. I was learning how to text people through a laptop to help with their renewals through a text campaign. And I never done that before, and I got to learn it, and I got to talk with customers. I got to take renewals. I got to do all this stuff that I was told that I would be able to learn, be able to do. I was actually having some sort of fun. And I had another person to work with. I wasn't all by myself this time, and I got to talk to her. It was the girl that lives really close to the track, so I got to learn about her college experience and get to talk about sports and everything like that. It was so much fun. And then I got to walk around the fan area. I got to take some nice pictures. I got to interact with fans. I even got to watch some of Cup practice and qualifying, Xfinity practice and qualifying. And things started out really nicely. But it wasn't all great. Where we were situated right next to the bathroom, with the bathroom concierge, which I talked about that in my Pocono Raceway review, so I won't touch on it here. But the other one we were stuck next to was this trailer that was selling coffee, and unlike the other vendors who just hooked up to the main power at Pocono, they brought their own generators. 2 of them, to be certain, and they were the loudest generators ever. And they ran constantly. It was the most annoying thing in the world to listen to. And we had to listen to it all day, each of those 2 days. Pissed me off. But there's also a couple more lies we gotta talk about, ladies and gentlemen. The first was the food situation. So, in the email, and this was actually put in the email, on the Tuesday email, is that we would be provided 1 meal per shift. which made sense. Get provided lunch on our own for dinner because we were out at dinner time. Made perfect sense. Originally, I'm thinking, oh, that's going to be in the form of a concession coupon. It was not. But the first day, my boss did buy me a lunch. Well, lunch. He bought me a hot dog. You know what? Fine. Better than nothing. I had the chips. So, you know what? It worked out fine. So I asked the girl that I was working with on the second day, it was like, well, what's the situation with food? Do they just buy you food? Or is there a concession coupon? She's like, no, you pay for the food and then you send them the receipt and then they reimburse you. Huh? What? And maybe that would work out if places at NASCAR races actually give out fucking receipts. But you know what? It's a NASCAR race, so it's all rural shit tense. So you know what they do? They take cash. They take cash. They take cash. No receipts. No receipts. No receipts. No receipts. No cash receipts. So what she said was basically, you have to buy your own fucking food. What the fuck? Is it really that fucking hard to give the manager a company card that he uses to buy food for everybody? Is it really that fucking hard? Oh my god, and shit was so expensive. It was like $16 for a thing of fries. Like, who the fuck's buying that shit? I ended up both days just getting a plate of nachos. It was like huge plate, like this big, stacked high with shit. It was like $20, but it was a lot of food. So, like, you know, best bang for your buck, I guess. Pissed me off so much when he said that. I'm just like, you're putting me through the fucking ringer here and you can't even buy me food. At least they did provide some snacks. He bought this thing of like a box of variety sun chips, and it reinvigorated my love for salsa sun chips. Very good chip. Not as good as Pringles, but a good chip. Oh, we got through that. Anyway, so they weren't feeding us. They weren't prepared at all. Now let's get to the next lie, which was the hours. Midway through the day, NASCAR announced that the Cup race would be moved up a couple hours due to inclement weather coming later in the evening on Sunday, so they could get the whole race in. Fine enough, whatever. I'm thinking that we could probably get out around 3 if, you know, the race got moved up 2 hours. Our end time probably got moved up 2 hours, right? Makes sense. So my boss comes back, and I ask him, he's like, is this true? Are they moved up? He's like, I'm double checking. He's like, yes, that's true. And he's like, and then the other girl asks, well, what is that going to do for our departure time? He's like, well, we have to stay the whole race. Huh? He's like, yeah, the hours that were posted were last year's schedule. We have to stay the whole race. Are you fucking telling me? Are you fucking telling me you didn't even bother to change? You're telling me. So what you're basically fucking telling me is that you copied and pasted last year's email. You copied and pasted last year's fucking email. You were too lazy to not even change last year's email? Are you fucking shitting me, dude? I was already pretty close to walking out, and this probably should have been the point where I did walk out. Because you have to post the correct hours. You have to post the correct hours. You have to post the correct hours. Just say 7 a.m. to end of race. Is it really that hard? I guess so. Again, as somebody who's a NASCAR fan and was expecting, based on the posted hours, to go in and be able to watch some of the races, I felt like this was a personal cheap shot at me. I really did. I was pissed off. But thankfully, there was another person there, so I could still go in and watch some of the racing action while she stayed back at the table, because she didn't care about the racing that much. She just wanted to go in to film a little bit for her LinkedIn page, and that was it. But you know what? That's good. That's fine. You know, whatever. And here's the kicker. We got out about 4:30. No, not 4:30. We got out about 5:30. So I got to go in and watch some of the racing anyways? Huh? Why would you say we have to stay till the end of the race and then not even stay till the end of the race? Like, at this point, I'm just like begging. I'm like begging them for any level of transparency and consistency, because that's all I'm asking for. Just be consistent. If we have to stay till the end of the race, stay till the end of the race. If we get to be done at 5, be done at 5. Be clear, concise, and post the fucking hours. Just so frustrated. I'm just so frustrated. Oh my god. But at least I got to go in and watch some of the Xfinity race, and it went to overtime, so that was fun. And it was a really good experience, and you know, we weren't there super long, so that was day 2. Just a multitude of shit, and I'm at my wit's end at this point. Like, I'm ready to be done. We only have one more day left. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it'll be a little shorter. Not as short as I thought it would, but apparently we have to stay till the end of the race. Stay till the end of the race, quote unquote. Yeah, it was not it's not great. But now we move on to day 3, the final day. Again, scheduled hours were 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Except really not. It was 7 a.m. till the end of the fucking race. By the way, my boss thought that there was going to be a lot of traffic getting to the track, so he asked us to be there at 6:30. We left about 6, and we were staying about 45 minutes out of the track, so we got there about 6, a little after 6:30. No, we left a little before 6, got there a little after 6:30, and I beat my boss there. Great accountability. And I was back at that table with the people, with the coffee people. The coffee people that were so considerate to dump their leftover coffee / sewage all in front of our tent. It never dried up. So that was grand. Thank you for doing that. But also, I was all by myself. You want to know why I was all by myself? Because apparently I wasn't the only person that had the idea of walking out after the second day. Remember I said we started with 9 people, including my manager. 4 people walked out after Saturday. 4. So we're stretched thin, and I'm like, damn. If I'd have known people were planning on walking out, I would have fucking joined them. It's like, what the fuck? But I stuck it out. I'm thinking it's the last day. I'm already here. At least I'm in the area of the track again. So you know what? We'll just go with it, right? And this day went fine. We were a little bit busier. I didn't have to do any of the text campaign thing again, which I'll probably elaborate more on that on the Work Stories podcast. But that was very busy. A lot of people responded to that text campaign, and we were spending a lot of time doing that. But I had to deal with a lot of people that were just coming up and having general questions on where to go, and also taking deposits for renewals. And like, Anne sat with me at the tent for some shade, and she was also answering questions, doing more work than probably anybody else there besides me. Because apparently all it takes to succeed at one of these roles in a NASCAR race is just A, knowing the system with basic knowledge, and B, having basic knowledge of a NASCAR race, which both of us do. So whatever. My manager made a couple of crazy comments. I never saw this guy eat anything, and I only ever saw him drink Dr. Pepper and mug root beer, 2 based drinks, by the way. He made a pretty wild comment that I wanted to comment on. He said, "I don't really like water." Huh? I made sure to increase my water intake after that. That was one of the craziest things I've ever heard anybody say. Nothing else. A couple other things. I also want to point out here that I think that the fans that I interacted with, at least for the most part, were very nice. Usually the customers, because the customer's not always right. We know this, right? But the customers here were very nice, very respectful. They were very understanding of the situation. They were very easy to talk to, especially being a NASCAR fan myself. We talked a lot of NASCAR with some of these people. I learned a lot of stuff about them, and it was honestly kind of cool. I was not expecting the customers to be that nice, but really throughout the entire weekend, they were really nice people. I also got offered beer on multiple occasions. People like, "Yeah, you want a beer? Thanks for helping me out. You want a beer?" No, because drinking a beer on the job, even if it's this job, would hurt my reputation, and I don't want to do that. Also, I don't like beer. Also, people offered to pay me to charge their vapes on our charging station. I said no, because that's weird, and I don't think vaping is cool. So, there's that. But really nice people all throughout, except for the fuckers that smoked in front of our tent. Fuck you, by the way. And there was a couple customers that were a little erratic, but that wasn't because of us. It was just because of their situation, which I won't go into. But I also really quickly want to point out the app we were using to clock in and out of our shifts, and that's where we filled out all of our information for payment and all that sort of stuff. It was a really cool app. It tracked your payment in real time, like as you were going throughout your day, which no apps like that do that for me. I mean, yes, the one that I use for a couple of my jobs, or one of my jobs, kind of does it, but not really. This one's like by the second. That's really cool. Just wanted to point that out. Really cool app. I think more companies should use it. I'm not going to say what it is, because again, that could expose the company. I don't want to do that. So, and again, I want to talk about, I'm not going to say too much about Pocono as a facility here. Again, I talked about it in the review, a lot of my thoughts on the facility itself, because I wasn't working with the track directly. I can't really comment on the track's operations themselves, but I will say I did hear a lot of rumors about a lot of sketchy things going on, as far as people getting scammed with like credit card scams and everything like that. I will say Pocono does seem like a pretty bare bones facility, but I cannot comment on that 100%. So I just wanted to point that out. But everything else went fine. I mean, I didn't really care about the situation at all as far as like leaving my boss's stuff behind. because I wanted to see the cup race. I wanted to see at least some of the cup race. I didn't care about it, and so I just went about it, and I would just like hide my boss's laptop underneath the table, cover it up with like the tablecloth, and then go in and watch a couple laps of the race, and then come right back. And you know what? Nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. So, because I wasn't, just because of poor planning, was I not going to be kept from watching a NASCAR race at a NASCAR race. Sorry, I wasn't. The only other thing, the rest of the day went pretty smoothly, and we ended up getting done a little after 3 o'clock, which again, that was if you account for the race time moving up, that would have been about the time we would have left anyways. So again, why did you say we have to stay to the end of the race? Why did you say that? But I was like, holy shit, we're done. And I actually could go in and watch some of the race. I was like, holy fuck. It all worked out at the end, right? I'm like, thank God. So, pack everything up, and at the end of each shift, I had to give my boss the credential back, which was really the main thing preventing me from walking out, because I didn't know if I would be able to get in without a ticket. I would have, but I didn't know that at the time. So yeah, at the end of each shift, you have to give back the credential. You know what? Fine. So I hand him the credential, and I'm like ready to walk out and go watch the race. He's like, oh, I need your shirt. I swear to God, I genuinely did not think there could be anything more absurd that he could say or do after the laptop situation, the food situation, the inconsistencies with the schedule, saying he doesn't like water. I genuinely didn't think it could get any crazier than that. But that moment right there is probably the craziest thing I have heard anybody say to me on the job. From an employee to employee perspective. Customers have said a lot more crazy things, but from just like a boss to an employee relationship standpoint, that is the wildest thing I've ever heard, and I don't know if that'll ever get topped. Oh. But I was like, really? You need a shirt? It's like, apparently it's policy when you work with this company that you have to give back your shirt at the end of your time there. So immediately that makes me think, these people reuse these shirts. Do they get washed? Am I wearing a dirty shirt? I mean, it was dirty because I'd worn it 2 days in a row. Well, on 3 days in a row now, but before that, was it ever washed? What? And like, I'm like, all of that's going through my head, and I'm like, I just straight up told him, like, I have no shirt on underneath this. You are about to make an employee go shirtless on the job. That is borderline workplace harassment and workplace, like, I could possibly put up a lawsuit against you. Maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't go through since I'm about to leave, but I could. Like, especially if I was a woman. If you think I'm a woman, right? And I don't have anything on underneath my shirt. Like, you can't do that. Even at a NASCAR race, right? The NASCAR race, I as a guy could get away being shirtless, right? There's tons of other people at races that are shirtless, but like, not everybody wants to be shirtless, right? Including me. I don't want to be fucking shirtless. Nobody needs to see what's underneath this shirt. So I tell him that, and he's like, I tell him that whole thing, and then he's like, he almost still made me take the shirt off. Almost did. And then he was like, don't worry about it. So what did I do? Turned my ass around, left, went up to watch the rest of the race with Anne, and then after the race was over, watched about the last 40 laps or so, or last about 60 laps or so. After the race was over, we left the track and didn't look back. And that was it. And, yeah. And to this day, we drove home the next day, and to this day, I am still completely baffled at what we experienced. I really genuinely don't know how this company gets such high profile events like the Kentucky Derby, like the Final Four. How do they do that? With that level of incompetence in operations, how do they do that? I don't know, and to be honest, I don't care. There was a chance that I might work some more events with this company. Again, I probably would have maybe tried my hand at the Kentucky Derby again, knowing what I know now. Maybe I'd be able to get a cheaper rate on hotels. There were a few other NASCAR races or other races, IndyCar races, that I could have worked that looked interesting. That I maybe would have tried my hand at just for a little bit more experience. I might have gotten the Final Four. That would have been really cool. But now, no. No, thank you. I will not be going back to that company, nor do I want to. I got my paycheck and I deleted the app, the payment app, and the email that I was using to contact with them is going to be inactive soon. So, cut off all contact with these people. And that's the way I'd like to keep it. So, the worst part was, or I guess one of the more worst parts, was in the days after the weekend, when I saw all the other people's that I worked with, their LinkedIn posts regarding the event. And I got to see that the people that got to work, some people got to work in the infield, and they got to go on pit road and see the garages and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're telling me if you're telling me if this company had just been half competent and asked me to bring my fucking laptop, I could have been in the fucking garages all weekend? That would have been fucking sick. Just piss me off even more out the door, will ya? But that's it. That's it, and that's all I ever wanted to be. Now, my experience of Pocono Raceway, my thoughts of Pocono Raceway are not really tainted by this experience. I still enjoyed Pocono. It's got its problems as a facility, like I said earlier in the video, and as I said in the review, as I said in the podcast episode, we talked about it too. It's got its flaws, but they don't really have any affiliation with this company outside of this of what I've talked about. But in the grand scheme of their operations at the track, it's very, very minuscule. So I don't think this taints my view of Pocono at all. It just taints my view of this company. And the fact that I took 3 days off of work, my main job, where I would have been paid $3 an hour more to be at, and also no hotel, no driving, no extra food, no baseball tickets, none of that. I did all that just for what? Like, I mean, it is a line item I can put on my resume. And I have. But at the end of the day, does it really mean much? No. I don't think so. It's just a thing that I did. And I really honestly still cannot believe that I actually did this. Like, I was saying that on the entire way home. I'm saying that now, multiple weeks later. Like, how the fuck did I actually do this? But I did it. And, yeah. Great. That's my experience. I just wanted to bring that out there because this was one of the craziest experiences of my life. And, I think it was just worth noting. So, that's the story, guys. Any crazy work experiences you'd like to know, put them in the comment section down below if you'd like to share them. I'll talk about this again on the Work Stories podcast eventually, but we got a few episodes to do before we get to that. We've got a few things to do before we can get back to Work Stories, so I thought it was a good idea to put this here just to share with the masses. because I really wanted to talk about it. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this long story time video, but a necessary one. So until next time, guys, I will see you guys later. Goodbye.